welcome to my channel. My name is Morgan. This weekend I wanted to get started on some canning projects, but we got a little distracted with some spring cleaning and decided to get it done now. That way when it comes time to do a lot of garden prep and getting the garden in for the year, we don't have to worry about doing all of our organizing and going through stuff then. So that left not a lot of time for canning, and I was kind of bummed that I couldn't spend the weekend doing what I wanted to do. So I got to thinking and I thought, you know what? Why wait until another weekend is here? I don't have anything else going on after work this week. I'm gonna see if I can get some canning done. And then I thought, you know, it would be a real challenge for myself to see if I can get one canning project done a night, every night of the weekday this week. We have plenty of freezer meals ready to go in the freezer, so we shouldn't have to worry about getting dinner done when I get home from work. So we'll be able to take our time and focus on doing some canning projects. So I figured the best way to start this out would be to can some beans, because it's really easy to can beans, very simple, very quick. And then while we're canning our beans, we can spend some time making some chili. That way we'll have our chili cooked up and ready to go for tomorrow. That way we can get it in the canner tomorrow. Kind of pre-prep the bulk amount of cooking first and then use the next day for pressure canning. So I have all of my supplies here that I need for this project, and I am going to be canning these beans dry. I'm not doing any pre-soaking, I'm not doing any pre-cooking, which I felt the need to say because canning your beans dry is not technically approved by the USDA to do, but a lot of people do it and I've done it before. I don't have any problem doing it. I feel safe that it's perfectly safe for my family. So I just encourage that if you've never canned your own dry beans to look into the process a little bit more and the science behind it and be able to make that decision for your own family. The first thing I'm going to get started on here is getting this on the stove to heat up with 3 quarts of water. Now that we've got that all heating up, I've got the lids and bands off of 9 regular mouth pint jars. I can fit just 9 in my canner. And we're gonna get a half a cup of dry beans put into each one of these jars.
So one of the reasons why I thought this would be a good idea to try out on the weekday is not only because I just felt like canning, but also I do a lot of preserving of stuff from the garden in the fall. And because I work a 9 to 5, I have had to do it all on the weekends. However, I had a lot more produce coming in last year than I am used to. And quite a few times it ended with me staying up way too late on a Sunday in order to get my stuff done. And then I would show up to work the next day groggy, tired, and just not having it. And I really want to put myself in a position to where I have a routine for canning on the weekday if that's something that I need to do come fall time.
Our water's all done boiling, so I'm going to fill each one with some boiling water. I'll probably have to heat up one more kettle. I don't think this is going to be enough. And I'm going to fill it up to 1 inch headspace. I'm going to go ahead and pour some vinegar into our measuring cup that we used and get a rag. That way I can wipe down the rims with a little bit of vinegar. It might not be necessary for what we're doing here because there's not really anything spilled on the lids, but just as a precaution anyway, something you always want to do is wipe down the rims. So that's what I'm going to do. Plus we can take this vinegar that we used to wipe down the rims and put it in our canner, and that'll keep our cans from getting a nasty film on it from the hard water. I'm going to tighten these finger tight. I got all of the jars in here, and I poured the rest of the vinegar in. Now I'm gonna get the lid on and we're gonna wait for it to start steaming before we put the weight on. Now, I'm not sure if the camera is gonna pick it up or not, but there is a steady stream of steam coming out of here, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, since it's coming out steady, we're gonna set an alarm for 10 minutes and let it just keep pushing steam for 10 minutes, and then we'll put the weight on. Okay, our 10 minutes is up, so we're gonna put this guy on. We're gonna watch to see this little hand get all the way up to 11 pounds of pressure. That's the poundage we need to be at for where I live. So we'll wait till it hits that. We'll try to see, the goal is to maintain it at that pressure, so I'm actually gonna turn mine down to in between a 4 and medium, because I know that if I keep it right here, on my stove, when it hits 11, it should stay pretty near there and more constant, which took me quite a few times canning to figure out the sweet spot on my stove. And then it took me a few more times to figure out the sweet spot when we had to get a new burner, because this new burner burns hotter than my last one. So now we just get to play the waiting game. While this is coming up to pressure and we start a timer, once it gets up to 11 pounds, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on our turkey chili. I'm going to make a half batch since I've never tried turkey chili before. I don't wanna make so many pints of it and end up not liking it. Okay, I got my little cook stove out here, that way we don't overcrowd the pressure cooker over there cooking away. And I've got this chili going. It's looking pretty nice. I'm gonna let this go for maybe another 15 minutes and then we'll cut it off and let it cool so that I can chill it overnight, since we're gonna can this tomorrow. I also decided not to cut this recipe in half, and I did the whole thing because I just can't help myself. So we did do a whole regular batch of this. Okay, our alarm just went off for our beans. So I'm gonna turn the stove off. We're gonna wait for this to come down in pressure all the way. We ended up transferring our chili here into a crock pot, and I'm gonna keep it on warm all night. It just was not going to cool down enough to put into the fridge before we go to bed. So our pressure pot has come completely down. The little gauge is at 0 and there is no steam coming out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and get all of our cans resting on the table over here. We did not have any siphoning, which is exciting. And look how good those look. That is beautiful. I've noticed that these black beans from Azure are a little lighter than the black beans that you just get from Walmart. Here's all of our pretty cans in a row. Best practice is to not touch them for 24 hours. And pretty soon here, I'm sure we'll be hearing these lids pop. Well, we'll be in bed. It's 9:56, but I'll hear them in my dreams. I just got home from work. It's Tuesday night now, and I checked on our chili. It held up beautifully in the crock pot. We kept it on keep warm all night, and then halfway through the day we had it on low. That way it could get hot enough for us to jar up. So I've already got my pressure cooker over there heating up for us, and we're gonna ladle this into our jars, get our lids and rings on, and process this. And while we're processing these, we're gonna get started on a pizza / spaghetti sauce to jar up tomorrow. To debubble this, I'm just gonna kind of bang it on the counter a couple times. That's what I usually do for stuff that has a decent amount of liquid in it. It looks like I'm gonna be about a jar short, which makes sense because I couldn't help myself. I brought some of this for lunch today. Since beans process for the same amount of time as this chili is going to, I'm gonna go ahead and fill that last jar with some kidney beans. Now we just gotta clean all of our rims. I'm going to go ahead and clean out the crock pot and make my sauce in here, and we'll just do what we did with the chili. We'll just keep it on, keep warm until tomorrow when we get to can it. That turned out really well for the chili. I don't see why we couldn't do it for pizza sauce too. And I don't feel like chopping any onions tonight, so we're gonna get the food processor out and just process them because it'll be fast and easy. And I'm gonna blend the onions up anyway when I go to blend the sauce together, which I'll use an immersion blender for. That way we don't have to take it out of the crock pot. So I think that is the best option. So let's get started on that. Yeah, definitely pureed. That's okay though, it's gonna get pureed anyway. I've got my crock pot on high here because I do want to kind of cook these up a little bit before we add our tomatoes. Looks like we've got a steady stream on our pot over there, so I'm gonna time it for 10 minutes. Frozen minced garlic, I'm gonna put the lid on this and just let it sit for a little while and warm up. Our onions and garlic have had some time to kind of warm up and cook down just a bit, not too much, but I'm gonna go ahead and get our tomatoes and spices in here. That fits perfectly anymore and we would have been overflowing. We're almost up to pressure over there. It's 8 o'clock, so this batch of canning won't be done until at least, what, 9:15? Which isn't too bad. We usually go to bed around 9:30, 10, so. Alright, I'm gonna let this whole batch heat up, and then before we go to bed, I'll switch it on to keep warm. I might add a little bit of water in the morning too, just to make sure that it doesn't condense down too much. Chili was fine. I did put a little bit of water in the chili though. That's another reason I'm gonna drip stuff. I think I'd put a whole pint of water in there. Our chili and 1 jar of kidney beans just came out of the pressure canner and nothing siphoned, so good deal. It is Wednesday night and we have just had dinner and gotten everything set up to get this pizza sauce canned up. It held up pretty well in the crock pot, so we're gonna get it blended up, pour it in our jars, and we will process it in the water bath canner, which is already heating up. Now this pot is nearly full to the brim, so I do wonder if we're gonna have more than we'll fill one batch. If we do, and it's not too much, I might just freeze it. And if it is quite a bit more, then I'll just do another round of canning. We do have some left. It looks like it would be about a can's worth left. So I'm not gonna bother running a whole nother batch just for a can's worth. So I will unplug this and we will let this cool. And it's early enough right now that it should be cool before we go to bed tonight. And I'll just pop it in a silicone tray that has little cups in it and freeze it that way. We've got our little cup of vinegar, which I will add to that pot when we're done so our cans won't get all covered in hard water stains. Ooh, I made a mess on that one. Once we get these put in and our pot comes back up to a rolling boil, then I'll start a timer for 35 minutes. With water bath canning, you want to make sure that the top of the lids are covered by at least an inch of boiling water in order to achieve a seal. Because it's halfway through the work week now and I'm starting to be a little worse for the wear, we are not preparing anything tonight. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna can some kidney beans tomorrow. That way all we have to do is pour it into the jar, get some hot water in there, and get it in the pressure pot because I need a break. So I will show you what our jars look like coming out of the canner and then I will see you tomorrow. Here they are all finished up. It's now Thursday night. We got a little bit of a late start tonight because dinner took a little bit longer than usual. So we will see if we can get these beans canned up before 10 o'clock tonight. That's my goal. Get them done before 10 and I will be happy. So we're just doing some kidney beans tonight since I don't have any besides the 1 jar that we did earlier this week. So I've got everything here that we need to get started. I'm gonna go ahead and start boiling our water. The beans that I used first were actually ones that I bought from Walmart, and this small one that I opened are the ones that I got from Azure. They're slightly darker, so I'm kind of interested to see how the Azure ones come out versus the Walmart ones, if it's just color or if there will be any difference in taste or texture too. Today it was really nice outside and it pained me so much to be inside all day. And today's also the first day that you can hear the tree frogs outside too. It sounds so spring-like out there and it makes me so happy.
Can't forget our vinegar. So it is 9:45 and our pot just got done. So I am not going to wait for this to come down and take these jars out tonight. I'm just gonna let it come down on its own, and then in the morning we'll take the jars out. Oh my gosh, this thing is still warm. Looks like all of them sealed. It's now Friday, and despite the fact that it has been a long week and we have been working on canning every night this week, I actually have quite a bit of energy tonight to get some stuff done. However, I think we're going to stick to canning up more beans tonight. We're going to do pinto beans tonight because I know I have a lot of energy now. I had some caffeine before I left work. That probably has something to do with it as well. But I just have a feeling that if I tried something more difficult, like a recipe to can tonight, which I have the energy for now, I can just see that going south very fast and me fizzling out and ending up with a bunch of food that's not canned. And I really want to get this done so we can put our canning projects to bed so we can start other projects this weekend. So I've got everything set up, and today we're going to be using some Tatler lids because I ran out of regular lids, and we are just going to hope that they seal. I have had pretty good luck with these sealing most of the time. Every now and then I will have one or two that doesn't seal, which is why I don't find myself reaching for them over regular canning lids. You know, I've never actually canned pinto beans before. I don't usually keep them in the house, but I've actually had these for, well, I guess not too long, maybe 4 or 5 months. I bought them to make soup beans with, and I never did get around to making any soup beans. Ooh, air bubbles. I forgot to knock those out last time I canned beans. Oops. Well, they still turned out fine, so. But yeah, I definitely forgot to get the air out of the beans. I'm gonna go ahead while our water is heating up and put the reusable gaskets on my Tatler lids. That way we can just pop them on when we're ready. All right, into the canner. I'd say the consensus for canning on the weekday after I get home from work is that it's working pretty well for me. As long as we clean up right after dinner and I kind of get everything set up, it goes pretty smooth. I think I would have to stick with simpler recipes if I decide that I'm going to do some canning on the weekdays. Like the beans, those are really easy to do. I could knock those out on a weekday and not have to worry about running out of beans again. The sauce did take a little extra time to do, but I think as long as I stick those at the beginning of the week when I have the most energy, that would be feasible. And water bath canning would make this a whole lot easier. I think that is the one thing I could have done for myself this week that would have made it even more of a breeze, is just stick to water bath can recipes. I will keep that in mind for the future when I'm planning my canning days, that maybe I might want to move some of my more simple ones to the weekday and save the more complicated ones, and like breaking down produce from the garden for the weekend, because that takes some time when you're working with like raw vegetables straight from the garden. A lot of times you have some steps you have to take before you can get to the canning process, or even the cooking process. Sometimes there are steps that you need to take before then too. So I think trying out doing one batch of canning once every night this week really kind of helped me understand how much is feasible to get done on a weeknight. As long as my pot's staying at the correct pressure, I still have a good like hour and a half while it's cooking to sit down and do whatever I need to do. So thank you so much for coming along on this canning adventure with me. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed canning all of this stuff. I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.